All right. What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to another coffee Q&A here on the OnoCoffee channel. I'm your host, Jay, and we do coffee questions and answers to answer any of your coffee questions Monday through Friday, 10 a.m. Eastern Time. How you all doing? Good to see you. How's everything going? Hope everything's going well. As you can see, this is my Fellow Ode Gen2. And this week, we've had a little bit of a adventure with this thing. Peter, how are you doing, man? I think his computer is broken too. My computer is broken. Is there something wrong? Is there something wrong? What is happening? What are you guys seeing? Let me know what you're experiencing so that I can see if we can figure it. But the computer is always broken. Actually, this one is an old 2015 MacBook Pro that we're broadcasting from, and it's it's slower. It feels slower than this 2013 MacBook Air. But what can you do? What can you do? Anyway, so as you remember, was it 2 days ago? Was it 3 days ago? This thing just stopped working. In the middle of the live stream, at the 28-minute mark, it just gave up the cat, and then died. And I was like, what in the world is going on here? So we messaged. I sent a message to Fellow, and I received a reply back. Devin, how are you, man? Good to see you. And we had a response, and I remember two shows ago, I told you, well, this is, I was like, well, I don't know what else to tell you, because I sent them the video of the incident, and then in yesterday's stream, I told you that I'd received a response from Kyle and just needed to send them the receipt, so I sent them the receipt, and then I received this message back a little bit later last night. What is it? Oops. It says here, "Hi Jay, thank you for informing us about the issue. We will send out a replacement as soon as possible using upgraded shipping to ensure you receive it quickly and can get back up and running. You'll receive a confirmation email shortly ending with the tracking information once we fulfill the order at our end. You do not need to return the current one." Oh, I'm surprised. Feel free to dispose of it as you see fit. I have also looped in my product team to discuss the matter with our manufacturing team to understand what may have gone wrong. We appreciate you bringing this to our attention. In the meantime, if you have any questions, please let me know. I'm happy to help however I can. So I responded with, hey, oh, that's not what I responded with. I said, I think I wrote somewhere I had a response to it. Oh, here we go. I just wrote back really simply, "Thank you, Kyle. I appreciate your assistance with this. Looking forward to grinding with the Ode again. I have been enjoying it." And it's true. I have been enjoying it, surprisingly enjoying it. And I've been enjoying it a lot more than I had expected. Well, I guess maybe not. But when I borrowed Matt's Gen 2 a few months ago to do the live stream with, I was really surprised at how nice it is. And it's fairly compact and works pretty darn well. Fast, efficient, relatively quiet. And, the grind quality is wrong. So I have no complaints. And now that Kyle, and then of course Kyle sent me a few minutes later, I noticed that there is a tracking number and shipping information. So thank you, Kyle. And thank you, Fellow. I appreciate the quick response and taking care of this. And now I guess we can do a video about taking it apart and seeing what's on the inside to get a feel for, and maybe we can figure out on a live stream what actually happened to this grinder and why it did. But for the moment, I wanted to take time to put it away. But before we put it away, we want to have some coffee because, we need to have coffee in the morning. And so today I thought we'd brew with the Cafe Deep 27. And here's the Deep 27 is actually this particular brewer has been a little bit of a thorn in my side, mainly not because of the brewer, but because of the filters, right? And it's a completely silly reason. And I know most of you will keep your filters in a secure place, but mine are kind of floating around in a big box with other filters, and sometimes they're just sitting on the edge of the couch. Really, they're sitting on a couch, right? because I got it all piled up. And for whatever reason, this bag and these filters, if you tilt it, they want to slide out. And this has happened more than once. And so a number of times I've been able to catch it, but sometimes they just spill out, and then I have to go pick up, this many filters off the floor. And it's like, so I don't know. They have this high slick rate plastic that they're using for their bags. So if you buy this and if you cut it like this and you keep your handmade, just be careful because it is very slippery. Oh, and by the way, thank you to Keone for sending these to me quite a while back. We do have a live stream on it. These have been really great. And okay, so let's get into this Deep 27. We got the Deep 27 still in the box. I keep everything in the boxes because they're just easier for me to store them. I'm still trying to understand this brewer because it's such an interesting shape. Like I wonder what the thinking process was behind deciding that we're going to, hey, let's make a brewer that we're going to really thin and tall, especially when the convention is wider and more short. And so for our coffee today, we're going to be using this community coffee that Matt roasted called the Nicaragua Matagalpa Community Coffee. So roasted on the 25th of September. So we're going to use that. And what else are we going to do? Okay, water's getting closer to being boiling. We've got of course, our now becoming trusty Fellow Tally Pro Studio Edition. I'm going to turn it on. So I must say that I'm really quite, why is it negative? Okay, I must say that I'm really quite pleased with Fellow's response. Fritzy and Kyle were very responsive. They replied right away, and they took care of it in a very respectable manner. Whoa. Meaning that, they took care of it, which was sometimes you have to worry, like when dealing with some companies or companies that, are they going to give you a hard time? Is there going to be a lot of rigmarole around it? And for the moment, we're going to be back to our trusty Barazza Virtuoso, which has been our workhorse for a long time on this show. So we're going to we'll go back to our medium coarseness away from the finer that we were using for the last AeroPress brew, or that I used yesterday. And as you can see here, we've got it has, the Isato thing. Craig's with us. What's going on, Craig? Maku, hello. And Craig says, I've had great experiences with Fellow's customer service. Oh, fantastic. I'm glad to hear that. And they made it really simple and really easy. So that's a very, very great thing. Makes me more of a fan. Or at least more happy to think about it. Sometimes you never know what kind of battle you're going to have. With this grinder, because of there's something we can. You'll notice that there's some popcorn at the end of that grind, because there's not much to push the weight. There's nothing to push all the coffee down. The weight of the coffee usually pushes it into the conical burrs, and the conical burrs are right, as you can see, we're right below the hopper. Where on the So you do have to worry about that popcorning in this kind of configuration. Whereas with the Ode Gen2, the Ode, it's in from the hopper, it falls into this augering system, which pulls the coffee forward into the vertical burrs. So these are horizontal burrs, these are vertical burrs, and then it grinds and is thrown around here if necessary, but it's also thrown out of the chute. So you don't get the popcorning effect with that style of horizontal grinder as you do with vertical. So that's one thing. It's not necessarily better or worse. It's just a fact of the design. So in this particular case, you could run into a little bit of issues as far as popcorning, or maybe a little bit of people say that there's a little bit of uneven grind at the end of the grind, but I don't see that, because we're talking about something that a bean that can be readily pulverized by steel, and it has to fit through the spacing of the burrs. I don't know if that really would make anything. So I guess it's neither here nor there. All right, so let us get our brew kettle. Got our brew kettle. And we need our little Kefek dripper. Look at this here. And our filters, our slippery bag filters. I never think it's going to fit when I use this, right? So put it in there. Nice. Oh, with switch modes. Okay. Now we're going to tare. And then now we're going to add the coffee, 24 grams, or it should be 24 grams. Let's see what it tells us. 24.2, perfect. So we're still at our ratio of 1 to 14, which is 1 to 14 and a half, which is actually, if I was telling you this a while back, I would have told you 1 to 16 if we had to figure it out. But it turns out by using 350 grams of water to 24 grams, it's actually a 1 to 14.5 ratio. Okay, so we've got, we want to shake our coffee. This is an interesting thing, like I've noticed since we started using this Virtuoso again with some of the coffees, is we get bigger chaff, where I don't recall noticing chaff with the Ode grinder. I'm interested. When we get the new Ode back, we're going to see about that and see. Maybe we'll do a head-to-head and see. And I don't know necessarily what that means as far as grind quality. Could it be that it's a condition of fineness, or could it be a condition of the style of burrs? Like we're talking with the Virtuoso, we're talking about conical steel burrs, where the Ode is actually flat burrs. And I think about my Mazda Major Auto over here, and I never see chaff in the espresso, but we are grinding into a much finer particulate with espresso. So I don't know if that's necessarily a head-to-head, apples-to-apples kind of comparison. All right, let me just make sure our water is totally heated correctly. We've got our kettle and our trivet. And we're going to make sure that we want to tare. So this way we set up our timer and everything's ready to go. All right, that's good. So I'm just going to take it straight off the boil, pour it into the kettle. The kettle is at room temperature, and it's a little bit cool in here. It's probably about 72 degrees. So that kettle, the exposure to the air from the kettle, from pouring, as well as the pouring into the kettle, is going to drive down that temperature. Leaving it open for a few moments is going to drive down the temperature more. And I'm, based on our other live stream where we actually measure the temperatures, I'm just kind of trying to reach that kind of same approach where we're trying to get it to about 204 or so before we start to pour, because we're going to find that it's going to be a little bit. Whoops. Let's do a saturation of. So we'll go to 85 today. Oops, a little bit more. Someone in the comments asked me about about the style of brewing that we use for pour over, and and asked if we could make a video about it. I think we're going to do that at some point. They're talking about just the general brew pattern or brew style. I feel like it's going fast. Like we talked about, I like to do 100 millimeter pours or 100 milliliter. I've been doing a lot of woodworking lately, and so I've been thinking a lot more in linear lengths rather than volume, this milliliters versus millimeters. And I have to say that doing this, here in the United States, we're very much an imperial-based country. But I found that in the woodworking world there's a lot of people that I know or a lot of people that I've been following that seem to use metric. And I found that metric is really so much easier to work with. Like, instead of having to worry about how many 1/16ths of an inch, if you've got something, let's say that's 12 and 15/16ths, what's half of that? 6 and 7.5/16ths. I mean, it's kind of difficult. Whereas, if it's like 600 millimeters, or let's say 624 millimeters, it's much simpler. 312, right? It's a much simpler approach. Okay, so 169, and my babbling means that we're going kind of slow. So let me speed it up a little bit. But really, I think for me, the 100 milliliters isn't ideal, but really I think I tend to follow, just add some water, let it fall, don't raise the bed up too much, and then add some more water, let it fall. So now 225, 238, so we're kind of catching up to that. Maku says, yes, metric makes more sense being 10 base. Yeah, totally. And it's not such a difficult transition for me, since I have been roasting in Celsius for the last, since 2008. And I mean, I've been using, the roaster I'm using now is all in Fahrenheit, which is, I've made the transition fairly easily as well, but we are slow. That's all right. But yeah, I definitely agree with you on this 10 base numerical system. I was watching a video the other day where they were talking about, this guy went to Japan, picked up some tools, and evidently the Japanese have their own historical measurement system. I forgot the name of it at the moment, but I was like, wow, that's kind of fascinating. And a lot of the craftsmen there still use those measuring systems. Peter says chaff is just stuck on the beans. The coarser the grind, the chaff is more noticeable. Hi, I hear you. That's why I'm curious. Like I think we get similar results. Oh, we're a little bit long. Okay, 350. And I would say that the Fellow C. Now that we're back to using the Baratza, it kind of makes me wonder, like, should we be rethinking our choice of settings to get a little bit fun? Plus yesterday for the AeroPress is really what I noticed it. So we've been using this 20 setting, right? And I think we were right about there for the AeroPress, which I thought was probably a little bit coarse for AeroPress. When we ended up we were brewing this coffee, the Kona Typica that I mentioned, that I found quite literally just sitting on top of the microwave. And, it had been sitting there for an untold number of years. And gosh, now there's a couple of factors that may have influenced that. The water bottle that I was using to hold the water, I had actually used for chili when I went up to hang out with Rusty during his attempt to win the Widmer's Tobacco Chili Cook-Off a couple weekends ago. We didn't have any containers, so I filled my Nalgene with chili to take home. And there was some, in the water that I had been drinking before that, there was some residual chili taste to the water. So that could be an affecting factor in that. Okay, so I don't know how long it took. It just took over 4 minutes about so. And here's our coffee, all bed done, nice. And let's put this in the sink because I took the trash out and I haven't brought the trash can back. We'll return the water. And Craig says that, yes, the usual conical burr designs will let more chaff through than the typical flats for similar grinds, drawdowns because of chopped. Oh, okay. That makes sense. That makes sense. So we can get similar particulates grind sizes in a conical burr with a flat burr, but we could still have chaff, more chaff present in the conical burr than the flat. Okay, that makes sense. All right, now let us have a taste of this Matagalpa community coffee. Put this aside. Happily, the fellow tally has not had any issues. It has been a strong performer. I'm enjoying the Tally Pro much more than I had expected to. Okay, so here it is. That's a pretty looking coffee. Nice sweetness. Peter says 0 degrees Celsius, water freezes. 100 degrees Celsius, water boils at sea level. 1 milliliter of water is 1 gram. Yeah, that's the nice thing. But my issue with the whole thing about the 1 millimeter is 1 gram of weight is that it's just for, and my issue with Fellow putting that milliliter measurement on their scale, it's like, yeah, that's true if it's just water, but what if you want to use your measuring for other things like gasoline to make Molotov cocktails? Then the weight is different. I think gasoline is lighter than water, is that right? Milk is heavier than water by I think 0.8% or something like that, 0.08%, something like that. Anyway, so nice, good bitterness, nice chocolate notes, not too heavy on the body. I'd say more medium plus body, but a nice finish. All right, so what we're going to do is we're going to take our Ode Gen2, and since it has reached its end of life, we're going to put it in the box, because otherwise I've got a box and a grinder floating around here, and that's really what I don't want to have. Moist Toenails with us. What's going on, man? How is your exams coming along? Hope you're doing well. Peter says, water is the universal template we all can measure. Yes. Nice. And then Bald Head says that 1 milliliter, 1 gram at 4 degrees Celsius, where water is most dense. Oh, at 95 Celsius, 1 liter of water is 963 grams, but we don't, wow, really? Huh. I didn't know anything about that. Water has a different weight at different temperatures. So if water is 1 mil and 1 gram at 4 degrees Celsius, does that, and then it's less at 95 degrees at a higher temperature Celsius. So if we were to drive the temperature down, let's say opposingly, 900, let's say we were able to get it down to 95 negative. Well, I guess you can't get it to that temperature, can you? It freezes and then it's done. But at freezing temperature, does it get, I guess at freezing, it would, because it's frozen now, becomes a solid, it's whatever weight it is, right? But as you make it colder, does it get heavier? That's interesting. Moist says they're doing pretty good as of now. Still have 2 papers left, so 2 more papers. How long are these papers? Okay, so let's zoom out a little bit here. Here's our box. We did the unboxing before, and now we're going to do the reboxing. Dun, 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 dun. Oh, I forgot there's a brush here. Register your product. Did I register? I think I did. And then we've got our bags. I think if I remember correctly, it just basically goes in, right? So we just kind of, I don't remember if the lid was still on there or not. Maybe that's backwards. Oops. This is probably why it broke. Oh, there we go. Nice. Some papers are 2 hours and 15 minutes. Some are two papers. Are you mean to write them or to talk about them? Sorry, I'm an old guy, and in our time in university, it was always like you have to write a 10,000 page dissertation. What? I've never thought of papers in terms of time, so I'm caught a little bit off guard. Okay, we'll put this in here. So there we go. Oh, I should probably put the cable tie, right? Cable tie. I keep the cable ties, right, because I'm kind of an OCD. Well, I kind of have this proclivity for OCD-ness, but if you actually saw where I live, it's kind of a wreck. So it's like mad scientist aesthetic without the mad scientist. It's kind of embarrassing in that respect. Okay, we got some packing material. Just make that nice. And then registration material. Maybe this goes on top. Okay. But let me put this here. Nope. This way. I think this we can put in there the ribs. Put this in there. Oh, that looks good. That's nice. That's nice. All right, then close it back up. All right. That goes back fairly easily, and it's nice because it's now I can put it somewhere and stack it or toss it. No, we're not gonna toss it. We're gonna see if we can resurrect it. We're gonna see if we can figure out what the issue is, and maybe next week we'll do that. So Craig says at 0 Celsius, I think Ocean City here in Maryland, a place called Ocean City where we go to the beach. At 0 Celsius, liquid water is less dense than 4 Celsius. It's less dense. So from 4 Celsius is the most density of water. And if you go in either direction, it becomes less dense. Okay. And that's why ice floats. Oh. I've always just thought that ice floated because maybe there's like air bubbles inside it, or I guess hydrogen oxygen would be air bubble. I don't know. I didn't realize. Okay. Moy says, oh, that it's that the paper you sit for has a time limit. The paper you sit for. You mean that when you say you sit for the paper, I never did that. That's why I have to ask. You sit for, you write your paper and then you discuss the paper? Is that what that means? Omar, what's going on, Omar? How are you? Sad about the grinder. Is Fellow repairing? Yes, they are replacing they actually were like, Kyle responded back to me right away, or fairly right away yesterday. He was like, hey, we're going to send you a new one. We're going to follow up with a tracking number, which they did. And you don't have to send us back the other one. Dispose of it as you like. I was like, really? All right. We'll use it to make more content, right? So very pleased with that. Yeah, we're getting a new one. We're getting a new one replaced. And Peter says ice expands. Oh, okay, yeah. I noticed that ice expands in size. It took me a long time to realize that ice will expand, but volume. Okay, so it's expanding, so the volume is, or maybe the expansion is an increase in volume. What I'm thinking about is when you're making drinks with ice, you can fill the ice all the way up, add the beverage, and it never overflows. I always thought it would overflow for some reason, but I guess since it's expanded, as it melts, it contracts slightly, so the volume is actually less. Correct? And that was a correct with a question mark. Moise says, okay, so to take math, for example, the test has around 10 questions in the paper, and you have to complete. Oh, I see. Okay, my apologies. I get it. So when you talk about papers, in my time, when we said we have to do papers, like we were actually writing like a paper, what we called a paper on whatever subject matter. So I'm thinking, oh, how big are these papers going to be? But I see in the United States, I think, or wherever, at least where I went to school, we called those exams, where you would actually, or tests. So it's just my misunderstanding in the terminology, but I get it. 2.5 hours. Oh yeah. I had to do a paper myself recently for a certification class I needed in food safe. What's it called? Serve safe food service safety and biohazards. And so it's not just biohazards and food safety, but it also included now. They updated it since my last certification class, like 5 years ago. They updated with some sections on, I guess, bioterrorism. How actors can infiltrate and do bad things to the food chain, right? And I was like, oh, that's an issue now, huh? In my world, I don't really find that to be much of an issue, but but the certification covers the larger industry of food service, so I can see if you're working for different companies in different fields, there could be some potential for that kind of bioterrorism or food chain terrorism. Umar says that free dysfunctional grinder for display. I know when I build a new set, I can put it there, be like in the background. Kind of like I put it with an old Mac, like one of those little bubble Macs, the one with the colors. Thinking of getting a sculptor or ode, and this might skew me towards the time more. I don't know. The other guys will probably know more about the time more. But I wouldn't say that my experience this week should necessarily dissuade you from Fellow. I'm going to say that fairly certainly because they've already sent me the tracking number. So the new grinder should be on its way to me now. There was an issue, right? And you're not paying a small price for the grinder. It's $345, right? So it's a premium price for a grinder. Not the most expensive in the world, of course, but in the world, I think, of home enthusiasts, it's pretty darn pricey, right? And I was thinking about this last night because you guys might probably remember that I've been doing a little more woodworking lately, and I've been getting into a brand of tools called Festool. And Festool is a German manufacturer of tools that are very high quality. And compared to most other brands of tools that you see in the marketplace, like especially the ones you see at the big box stores, things like DeWalt, Makita, Milwaukee, Festool is considerably more expensive. And a lot of people will poo-poo that and denounce that because it's so expensive. And I think Fellow is somewhat similar in the fact that their products are more expensive than others, like $345 versus like $250 or so for the Virtuoso. It's a considerable amount of money. But like with the Festool, I look at, Festool, you're using it, and the way, the ergonomics, the design, everything about it is really well designed. The easeability, the use is really pleasurable. A great example would be their sanders, right? The sander, if you ever use a hand sander, like after about 20 minutes with most brands, your hands feel a little bit numb because of the heavy vibration. Whereas something like Festool, they've developed it so that the vibration is minimalized. So you can go an hour without feeling that tingly. And then they have the dust extraction. So in those cases, those are really, they become more important the more you use it, and the more it doesn't discount the pain that you get when you're spending that much money, but there is value to be received for that. And so I think in this case, the Fellow, and I'll be honest, I was I mentioned to you about Rick Beato's video talking about youth and being very experimental in their intelligence, and then the crystalline intelligence as you get older. So my crystalline intelligence is a little bit of a curmudgeon intelligence, which also is kind of like skeptical of things like, why do I need anything else than this old trusty beast? But after using it once, I was like, oh, let me give it a try. So I got the Fellow, and it's been a very pleasurable experience. I really am somewhat surprised to say that. So for another $100, you're getting a different experience. Now, of course, don't get me wrong. I'm talking about a grinder that was made prior to 2007 that I've had since 2007. So it's apples to apples, but it's more like we're comparing, Granny Smith to Red Delicious. But there's so many nice features in that grinder that I've been discovering as we've been moving forward with it that I've really enjoyed. The speed, the quiet, the auto shut off feature, the cup, the way they have these fins right inside the cup that you grind into. It kind of holds back some of the coffee, so you got to shake it around to make sure you get all the coffee out. Otherwise, you're turning and then coffee's getting on your counter. That takes a little bit getting used to. It's got a magnetic bottom for the cup so that when you put it in there, it kind of locks in place. Ideally, I don't think it did that day that we had the issue. But there are a lot of nice things, the feel of it, the weightiness. There's a lot of nice things that you're getting for that money. And on top of that, it's one thing to buy a nice, expensive tool, but the really question is what happens when something goes wrong, if something goes wrong. So, for example, let's say I'm working on this worktop for my woodworking. I have this big workbench that's 1.5 inches thick, and I needed to drill 20 millimeter holes through it. I needed to drill like 86 holes, 20 millimeters. And as I started doing it the other day with my Festool drill, I was thinking, this is a heavy duty job. I was thinking, do I burn up this drill that cost me a considerable amount of money and then have to replace it? Or maybe I should just go run out to someplace like Harbor Freight and get a cheaper one that I can burn up. And if it burns up, no big deal. Or maybe use the DeWalt, because the DeWalt is a little bit less, the ones that I have. But then I remembered, this is a company, Festool is a company that if I've registered the product, and if I burn that tool up for any reason within 3 years, they'll fix it or replace it, no questions asked. And that's part of what you pay for with that level of tool, right? So this something. So while I hear you that this incident will put some concern, I think that I would encourage you not to weigh that too heavily, because within 3 days they've already sent me a new one. They're sending me a new one, right? It's in the process. It's on its way. Might be here tomorrow. Might be here today. Who knows? I haven't really looked at the tracker. So the question is, like, if you buy a product, what kind of service, if something goes wrong, what kind of service will they have? And maybe the reason that now that I think about with that warranty card that we saw in the box, perhaps I didn't remember to like register it. Maybe that's why they're asking me, hey, can you send us a proof of purchase? All right. Now that I think about it now, all right, that's fine. And that's acceptable. To me, that's acceptable. Moist has to run. Have paper tomorrow. All right, man. Good luck to you. Good luck to you. Hope you do well. Craig says that I need a wall of sustainers. We're working on it. We're working on it. Of course, it could just be empty sustainers, but at least it will look very impressive. Anton says, to be fair, I have seen a solid report of issues with fellow grinders, like, for example, clogging or fail saves not turning on. Okay. But I have found basically no reports of motors dying. Maybe very bad luck. Yeah. And, like I said the other day, I'm not really upset. I'm disappointed that it happened. But the question for me, the question is, and to Umar's point, the question is that what happens when there is an issue? Will they take care of it in an expedient manner? Will they take care of it at all? I mean, you have some companies, you could buy certain things and maybe they'll never take care of it. So it's like you want to, I think that perhaps this experience might give you some level of reassurance that should you decide to go with the Ode, and should you have an issue, hopefully this is not because I have a YouTube channel. And I'll be honest, I did ply that a little bit, but with the live stream link in the thing, But hopefully it's not because we're going to be talking about on YouTube. Hopefully this is indicative of how they handle their business for everyone. So I would also, Umar, I would encourage you to take that into your consideration as well. Anton says, on the other hand, I recently ordered a pen and the shipping company failed to actually have it delivered. I had to infuriatingly do, sorry, my English is terrible. I had to infuriatingly do the work of the support. Yeah, see, that's the thing. So, and we even had, Peter, one of our guys here, had an issue where they shipped him. He was so excited. Like, we were all excited for him because he was like, I ordered the Hario V60. What's the one with the glass? The Switch. I ordered the Switch, and they sent it to him, and it got crushed. And I was like, so are you gonna call? But at the end of the day, I think he just had to go buy another one because like nobody would. The shipping company, I guess the mailing company, the company they bought it from, no one's gonna support him. So it cost him double to get a new one. So there's that. That's why I think that that should also be part of the calculus at times. Now, there's certainly times when, like if I go to Harbor Freight, which in the United States is a relatively, well, it's a place to buy cheap tools at cheap prices, and you get some really nice deals at very low prices. And I buy stuff there, and some of them is very good, some of it's just schlocky. But like, if I go there and I buy one of their really cheap tools, like if it breaks, I'm not expecting to like have them replace it. They might. I mean, I never would. I probably wouldn't even ask. But you kind of have different expectations, right? Craig says that note you have to separate out reports from the Kickstarter Ode, the V1 Ode, and the V2 Ode. Okay, yeah, that's an important one too because there are 3 generations of Odes. I only knew about the 2 generations. I didn't know there was a Kickstarter one. Good morning to you, Mom. How are you, man? And Anton says, I would also just comply with anything customer service asks of me. If the CS does not receive much trust, they might be forced to ask for proof of purchase by superiors before they can help. Understood. And I get that. I just had to go find it. And Peter says, my local cafe will pull another shot if I'm not happy with it. See, that's a nice thing. If you're not happy with a shot, get another shot. And this is what I remember. That reminds me of a story. I had a barista many, many years ago. And this is one of our first location for Spro. And I try to find people that meet certain qualities. And I don't mean by technical coffee making abilities. I can help anyone become a good barista, right? Technically, to make great quality coffee that I would be happy to serve. What I can't really teach is a sense of service, a sense of empathy for other people. And that's kind of what I look for, people that are hospitality oriented. And once we get them to a certain point, I kind of give my staff carte blanche. Like I want to give them carte blanche to do whatever. My main mantra has typically been, we want the guest to be to leave here feeling stoked that they came in today. And if you're not familiar with that term, here in the United States, it's an old surfing term. Stoked means that you're super excited, like you're stoked that this happened, right? Or, whatever. So we want people to feel really excited that they came in that day. And I tell them, you can do whatever you need to do to make that happen. And back then we worked with a vendor that made us really nice quality sandwiches. And one of them was called a Powerhouse. And the Powerhouse is a 7-grain multi-grain bread with Munster cheese, bean sprouts, lettuce, tomato, and that was it. And we had some like mustard mayo if you wanted to add that. It's a nice sandwich, but unfortunately the sandwich, because the bread is very dry, it's a dry sandwich. And at the time, I think we sold that sandwich for $6.50. And this is a day that I wasn't there. And one of my baristas, she called me. She's like, "Hey, I had an issue today." I was like, "What's up?" She's like, I said to her, she told me, a woman came in, ordered the Powerhouse sandwich, pretty much ate the entire thing, and then complained about it, saying that she wanted her money back. And because it was dry and inedible, but she had pretty much eaten the entire thing, like not just half, but like maybe there's like this much left of it. And my girl denied her, right? And rightfully so. And she's like, and of course the woman got mad and said she was going to call the owner and blah 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 blah. So she called me to let me know what's up, which was great. I really appreciate that. And I said to her, we talked about it later. And I said to her, I'm going to back you up 100% on this, because you're the person in the saddle at that moment. You understand the factors that are at play. I cannot second guess you on your choices and what you did, because I told you what our hierarchy of what's important for us, right? And I get that, and I appreciate the fact that you're trying to protect our bottom line. And she's a great barista. She took really good care of customers, made nice product. And I said to her, what's something to consider for the next time this may happen is, we're saving $6.50. Does that savings of $6.50 buy us more or buy us less? I'm not saying you're wrong. Definitely not that. It's just something to consider for next time. Like, do you give the refund and make a person very happy if they really did have an issue, or is this person just trying to rip us off? At which you have to make that decision. I can't make that decision for you after the fact, out from a standing, for someone that wasn't even there, right? And that's why I told her, I trust you to make your choices, and I trust you to be here. And I'm not worried if you make that choice. If you deny her, no problem. If she calls me, I'll tell her, no problem. Like I had another situation where before I opened the Hamden shop, I was participating on these online forums on food. And at the time, the food critic for the paper of record was by all accounts quite a nice person, but she was also very much a very nice reviewer. Like there was never a critical review. There's never any critique of anything. Everywhere this woman went was amazing. And it's like, how can every restaurant you visit be amazing? And so I was so as I was participating, the more I would get a little more irritated. So I was a little bit critical of her, right? And I was like, we need to have more critical, because and for me, I don't mind critical things, because if they review you and they give you great and they give you nice words, but they give everybody nice words, it's nice to have the nice words, but it's still kind of like, well, are we doing anything really at all? But if you have someone that's actually a critique that gives you critical reviews and like says, okay, well, this was not good and that was not good, but comes to your place and says, oh, this was good, then that really means something, right? Right, like in this, like since Moist, if the A means nothing if there's no F, right? At least this is how I think. And so this review, so this critic, she had a friend, and a lot of her fan base really didn't like me because I was critical of her. And so when I opened this Spro, and they found out who I was in the forums, they were like, oh, this guy, who does he think he is, right? And I was like, well, I just want it so that if you come in and you say, hey, you had a nice time, that really meant something to me. That'll mean something, right? So she had someone come in that was a guest reviewer, because she was on holiday or away. She was close to retirement at this point. But this other person came in and came to our shop and brought someone who with her that was a coffee person. And they came in, they ate, and they did certain things. And, on the online forum, they kind of gave us a review, which was it was a little bit bashing, right? In that, they said certain things about the barista and how he took care of them or didn't. And this is a barista that I had known for quite a while. And the reason that I had hired him because of very certain qualities about the way that he handles people, his approach to customer service. And I'm reading this review, and you know what? If you have a review and you give me a critique, and it's true, I got no problem with it. I mean, I don't have a problem with that. My problem is that how do we fix that? How do we move forward? How do we rectify these issues? And that's what I'm really looking for. The pleasantries of online reviews are nice to receive, but they don't really tell me too much, right? Like when I meet people that are customers of ours and they're like, oh, we've been to your shop, I cringe a little bit. Because my question to them is, well, how was your experience? And I'm like, oh gosh, we had this barista and he was a total dick to us. And I was like, oh, no, they never said that. But that's my concern. It's like, oh, and so when I see people that are online, let's say on Yelp, right? A lot of business owners hate Yelp because they're like, oh, Yelp, people trash us on Yelp. And I'm like, I like Yelp. I always read Yelp reviews and Google reviews because I'm looking to see what are people saying about us. What do people not like? What do people have problems with? And some things I'm not going to fix, right? Like if somebody was complaining, oh, the Spro, the prices are too high. Well, I'm not going to change that. The price is the price. That's just how it is. It's like Festool. You either buy the Festool or you buy the DeWalt. It's up to you. And, hopefully you'll find value in what we do. And then I always was one that liked to respond to reviews, whether they were kind reviews or tough reviews. I always wanted to respond. And the response for the kind reviews was just to say thank you. But the ones that were responding to critical ones, to me, were the most important and it wasn't necessary. And my responses to critical reviews are not for the person that posts review. If they ever see it, if that changes their mind, perfectly fine, great. Hopefully they'll come back and give us a try, and maybe we can convert them. But my responses are always about everyone reading, the readership, because I know people are going to come and they're going to look at the reviews, and if the owner comes on and says, you can just piss off because, whatever, then okay, you're kind of, then why do I want to patronize you? But I want to demonstrate that, hey, we're listening to what you're saying. If it's something worthy of addressing, we're going to address it, and we're going to try to make the changes. So hopefully we can be better. But really, that's more for the readership to help that reinforce in their minds that, oh, this is a bad review. And like Umar was asking, should this issue put me off to the fellow? The question is, how do they handle it, right? And so that's my whole thing. So when this reviewer came to us back in 2010 and kind of bashed on us, I was like, it just sounds, especially when he said that this barista handled things in a certain way, I was like, I said, I've known this guy for a couple of years by this point. I hired him for very specific reasons. I have a very difficult time to believe that this guy did what she said or acted in the way that she said. It just completely out of character for him, if that was the case. And maybe he might have had a bad day, so I called him up and said, hey, this was the review. Tell me what happened. And it turns out that these two women had, for me, if I'm coming to review a place, I'm trying to be as unobtrusive as possible, right? I'm trying to I want to be in camouflage so nobody knows who I am, which is how the main reviewer for the city of record, the paper of record, actually handled. She was in the business for 20 plus years. Nobody in the industry knew who she was because she was that good at hiding herself, which I really respect. But these two came in, and my guy kind of remembered them because they had some issues. So I was able to go back to that day in the POS system and pull their ticket, their receipt. And normally I wouldn't really say anything, but I decided that, hers was a little bit off, skewed. So I went back to the forum and I said, hey, I appreciate the fact you came in. And I just wanted to recap. I have a hard time believing that this is the issue that you had because, and I went to bat for my guy. I said, this is a guy that I hired for very specific reasons. I find it very difficult to believe that he acted in the way you said. And then I started hitting them with meat. Like, this is the time you came in. This is exactly what you ordered because this is the receipt. This is where you sat and you came in with these things. And I said, I have no problem that you didn't like the coffee. Sometimes people don't. But if you're going to give me a critical review of the coffee, but with a coffee expert, someone that's from the coffee business, and evidently the person had 13 years in the coffee business, I would expect that person understands that the only way, the true way to critically evaluate a coffee is to do a cupping, is to do it in a certain environment, and not to be putting cream and sugar in it. My intention was to, rebut the critique, as well as to defend my staff, more importantly, to defend the staff, right? But also to say, hey, you know what? These are criteria, and even one of the interesting things was that in the comments, even the people that had become my haters because I was so critical of the main reviewer, even they had to be like, oh, well, that seems fishy. And I was like, that's what we want. That's what we want. If we put questions into the people's minds. So back to what I'm saying with Umar, I would say, consider the fellow. The fellow has stood up to the issue. They may have other issues. They may have manufacturing issues or whatever, but if they're willing to stand up and support, it's worth considering, right? I wouldn't take them off the playing board. Anton says, the thing is, I'm seeing a pattern with companies clearly being enthusiastic about their designs, like Fellow or Time More, but having problems with their QC. I think it is difficult to procure good QC in Chinese manufacturing. That could be. I mean, I guess there's the balance, right? Anton, since you're from Germany, I'm sure you're familiar with Festool, Mafel, and those companies, right? Very high quality tools, but they're being manufactured either in Germany or in the case of Festool, I think even in the Czech Republic. So places where they can be a little more meticulous about controlling their QC. And I think these are companies also that have their own manufacturing rather than, let's say, I'm sure like places like Fellow will have contract manufacturers. So yeah, I think that it can be difficult to manage with that because you only have so much control if somebody else is making your product. And Craig says you need people and hubs. Absolutely. That's the hardest thing to find. That's the hardest part of hiring, is to find people. I can find anyone, and I can teach anyone how to make coffee. It's making them considerate of others. That's the most difficult part. And I can't teach that. That has to be inherent. Anton says, depending on what type you are, it takes courage to deny an angry. I mean, yeah, it's, and I don't expect staff to deny customers, right? But I want them, and that's why I try to break it down to a simple concept. Does the guest feel stoked visiting us today? That's really kind of the main way that I frame our whole approach to service. And I tell them, you can do whatever you want. Not even within reason, but you could do whatever you want to give that level of service, to make that customer stoked that they were here. Like if they're looking for something and you need to call around and find it, go call, then do it. Give them something on the house if necessary, whatever. The important thing is that we want them to be stoked. We want them to leave and spread the word, right? Be like, oh man, I went to Spro and I had an amazing time. It was a great time. People were really lovely there. There's a good community there. That's what we want them to. That's what we want them to say. We want them to think about us. All right. Once again, this live stream, I only really intended to make it 20 minutes. The show overall is I always try to think, we'll just keep it at 20, 30 minutes, but we always have been extending to an hour. So time to get rolling. I have to go to the camera store today, get a little bits and bites of stuff. All right, so thank you very much for tuning in. Great to see all of you. As we've talked about the Fellow Ode, we're getting a new one. So I guess we'll have another unboxing video. 2 unboxings in less than 2 months. Can you believe it? It's crazy. But yeah, so hope that helps, Umar. Don't dismiss Fellow right away. Consider them. Anton says, yeah, we feel no, I don't think it's real, but my intention with the show overall, and I mean this with every episode, is that I always think, at least early on, I was thinking, let's do 20 minutes. We should do 20, because I really want to make it so that it's more bite-sized and easier for you to watch rather than sitting here for an hour. But we always end up babbling, or I always end up babbling for an hour. So, which is not too difficult for me because I do a 2-hour live stream on Thursday nights, which is happening tonight. So Thursday night, tonight, 8 p.m. Eastern time on the Ono Live channel, we're doing the coffee Q&A. We're doing the coffee and cigars live stream, our weekly Thursday night hang. If you're interested in cigars, the coffee was just a tie-in to this channel. But we make coffee or some kind of coffee, and we smoke cigars. So if you want to do that for 2 hours tonight, come join us, 8 p.m. Eastern. And Craig, I hope you do. I'm always interested to hear what kind of interesting smokes you're pulling from your collection there. Peter says, I don't leave reviews. You got to be really real. But I think I would encourage you to consider, if you have a good experience or a great experience, maybe just leave it to great experiences. Leave a review too, because you know what? As a business owner or even as a staff member, especially as staff members who are really engaged in their work, they're going to read the reviews. And a lot of people will leave bad reviews or reviews where they have issues. And, it's nice to have somebody once in a while come in and say, hey, I came in this place and they were awesome, man. They did this and they did that. I think that's really a nice thing to read, whether you're an owner or if you're one of the staff, to see that your work, your endeavors are being appreciated by somebody, anybody. No matter, even though the people come in every day and they're like, oh man, you're awesome, man. Thank you very much. It's nice to see that written down and print somewhere. Be like, all right, because a lot of times you see a lot of bad. Peter says, too many Karens in the US. Yeah, there's 51% of them now. Anton says, if the customer comes up prepared to be angry, chances are they're just looking for a discount. I mean, that could be. I also think that, I think about myself, right? What makes me an irate customer or a difficult customer? And it's the issue that I'm facing I'm really telling you, this is my personal experience. The issue that I'm facing at that business is typically just the thing that sets it off. There's actually other stuff that are happening in my world, external of that business, that are awry. And that's one thing I try to work with our staff to remember, that, a lot of what people will be angry about is not necessarily because of you or we've done, but it's because of stuff that's happening in their own lives, external stuff that you can't control. So and it's difficult. We're people, right? Everyone's people. So, and people tend to take things personally. If somebody comes in, rah, 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 it's hard not to take that personally, right? Because you're just like, hey, what the, I didn't do anything to you. Back up, right? But people need, and this is why, we try to find empathetic people, and even empathetic people can have difficulty with this, but like that person is venting or expressing them because it's reached much and you can't, and then you respond in kind. But we always try to encourage our staff to consider that, at least, and to try to build it so that it doesn't affect them personally. Like you have somebody come in and they're kind of like angry with you and acting like a total jerk off to you. It's very difficult to let that roll off and like not affect the way you approach the next customer or for the next hour, 2 hours. It's tough. It's super difficult. Oh, Peter says, good reviews, I might, but bad reviews, not so. Oh, I see what you're saying. Okay. So just a little bit bad, no reviews, really, really bad reviews. Gotcha. I'm okay with that. But then again, I wonder, like, maybe you do need to say some of the bad. Like, if it's bad, I will leave reviews. Like, maybe not for minor, but like, some serious, I guess we're probably on the same page. Huh. But I'm just saying, like, because if you have an operator that does want to be engaged, that is interested, they want to see whatever's off. Like I do. I want to see whatever's off. Tell me what's wrong. Don't tell me we're great. Like if you come to Spro and you're like, oh man, you have great coffee. Thank you. I appreciate that. I'm glad you had a great time. Really, I'm thinking, that's awesome, but I know we make great coffee, right? That's our intention, right? I know we make great coffee. Tell me when we're not making great coffee. Tell me where we screwed up. Tell me where we need to improve so that I can make those changes, so we can make our coffee even greater, right? Make coffee greater again. Anton says, I think I'm going to leave a good review for the Time More fish kettle because that thing makes me feel like I'm in heaven after having used the Bonavita. Yeah, the Bonavita, the electric Bonavita is a nice kettle in that it's rather affordable. It will boil the water, it'll heat the water to a certain temperature, but ergonomically, it's just clunky. It is just a clunky brewer, kettle. So I hear you. I haven't tried the Time More fish. I've never even heard about the Time More fish until just this moment, but I totally understand what you're saying about the Bonavita. All right. I gotta run. Thank you very much for being here. Always great to see you. Back again tomorrow, 10 a.m. Eastern, with another coffee Q&A. And it's amazing, feels much better, and temperature is no more a coincidence. Oh, nice. All right. Thank you, Devin. Good to see you, Anton, Peter, Mom, Craig, Umar. Always good to see all of you guys. Quality manufacturing. Oh, all right. We're going to go check that out. I did stop by that Time More booth. I did like what they had at the SCA. So yeah, don't discount them either. I don't know who I would choose. If I had to choose, I don't know. All right, have a great day or night, and see you guys next time. Who?